See. Now, folks, it's time for Campus Clash as I get university students or graduates together to hear their thoughts on a big topic of the week. Today, a warning from the Labour Party when it comes to free speech on campus. The Shadow Education Secretary has told ministers not to pick a fight with students and called the government's focus on free speech on campus a distraction from wider ongoing issues in society. Bridget Phillipson was reacting to the introduction of the new Higher Education Freedom of Speech Bill, which actually requires students' unions and universities themselves to protect free speech on campus. The bill also contains a measure to introduce a free speech champion who will investigate no platforming cases on campuses. So do we need a Higher Education Freedom of Speech Bill at universities in Britain? With me now is the English student at Queen Mary University, Anna McGovern, friend of the show, and Young Voices UK lead Jason Reid. Hello, Jason. Now, Anna, can I start with you, please? What is the case for a Higher Education Free Speech Bill?
It's a shame, actually, that we have to have this debate, and we've actually come to a point where we have to think about introducing a bill like this to protect free speech on our campuses. It's a huge shame that this has to come forward. I would personally argue that free speech should be a right across our society. But if we're talking specifically about university campuses, university as a mechanism is there to educate young people and introduce them to contemporary ideas that they may not have learned about or been exposed to before. So by shutting down free speech and deplatforming speakers from coming into university because they have views that students may not necessarily agree with, means that they're not getting exposed to those views or learning different perspectives. And I think possibly a bill like this would be able to protect those rights and actually improve the education of students coming to university.
Yeah, Jason, I've heard this time and time again on this Campus Clash segment that we've had on the show, where students say to me, look, it's like clockwork, Darren. You issue an invitation to a speaker, it could be a Conservative parliamentarian. The Conservative Party, of course, winning 14 million votes in the last general election. But like clockwork, student unions have a pressure applied to them. They then have to rescind the invitation to host a Conservative MP. And students don't get to hear from a democratically elected official. That suggests, doesn't it, that there is a real crisis on campus as far as speech is concerned?
Well, that doesn't reflect my experience at university at all, and it doesn't reflect the research that's gone into this either. There was a 2018 investigation from a cross-party committee of MPs, so MPs from all parties looking into this, and similar investigations since, which have all found that there are very few and far between isolated cases of no platforming or whatever else you might want to call it, where the roots of that can be very clearly traced. I just don't buy into this idea that there's some huge free speech crisis on campus. I'm by no means a Labour supporter, but I think actually what they've said on this issue is probably right, that the Tories are hoping that this will be a cheap and quick and easy way to win back some young voters, whereas I think in reality they're going to find out that the reason young people are not voting Tory is because of much more fundamental issues like being unable to buy a house or record high tax rates, and a bit of virtue signalling here and there about free speech on campus will not achieve what they think it will.
So, Anna, Jason there saying that he actually agrees with Bridget Phillipson's comments around the government, picking a war with students, and actually that free speech at universities isn't an issue that they should be focusing on. I agree with you, though. I actually think that we need a little bit more robust speech on campus to actually inoculate the next generation to be more pro freedom of speech. Don't you think?
Yes, and if I'm honest with you, I couldn't disagree more with Jason. If anything, my university experience has seen this, and many of my friends' university experience. We've seen, the deplatforming of speakers on university campus, and even with statues being torn down and lecturers refusing to educate or teach their students because of this. And honestly, this has been my experience, and I genuinely think something like this would be really practical for the universities to protect their education for the students.
Indeed. Jason, just very quickly, in a word, if you can, don't incidents with the academics like Kathleen Stock, for example, show that there is a major issue on campus where someone can actually be hounded out, potentially, of a job?
Well, students and academics already have their right to freedom of expression and to invite whoever speakers they want enshrined in law. I just don't see
but
this as the widespread
in
issue
practice,
that
though,
people seem to
that's not happening. So we're going to have to
Yeah.
leave it there, sadly. I could have continued that, but that was the English student, Anna McGovern, and UK lead at Young Voices, Jason Reed. Cheers for your company.